I think the food that stuck out the most to me was the pineapple, for sure. It's a fruit. I just remember I had the first pineapple, and the other food was kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of lots of fish, lots of fish. I wasn't really into that much fish, before my mission. And now, like, I wouldn't go out of my way to eat it, but can definitely eat fish. But the pineapple, the fruit, lots of bananas. They'd have, the bananas would be like, this big, really small. I guess the most common food that they would eat is called pat or fufu. There's lots of different, it's essentially the same. They just have so many different names. But essentially what it is they have a root that's called manioc, and you can ground that up into a flour, or they'd have corn flour. And they would kind of get a pot, heat up, water in it, and while it's hot, they pour in that flour of manioc or corn flour into it, and they just stir it up with a pat stick until it becomes kind of pasty, and then they scoop it out, while it's still hot, onto a plate, and there it kind of forms a little bit, and you got to eat it while it's still warm, because if it's cold, then it's a lot harder to eat. So, you can burn your fingers because it's sticky too, so you're just you can't get it off. But how you'd eat it is you'd grab some pat, and then you'd have a bowl of sauce, and that's usually the variation, is the sauce. It can be anything, and then just dip it in, and you grab some fish or whatever meat's in there, and goat, stuff like that. And just grab it and just eat it. And it's a big, you have the whole family there, and everyone can share out of that one thing. Sometimes they would give you a separate bowl or something, but for the most part it's usually a family communion thing. Every time I would visit with someone, they would always ask you for, if you want any water, and then sometimes you kind of have to use your judgment. You're like, yeah, I know where they're getting this water, and so you can kind of say, it's kind of rude to say no, but I mean, if it's unsafe, it's unsafe. So you'd be like, no, I'm not thirsty, but thanks though. You don't want to be like, hey, you got that from the well. No. But kind of pass around water. Usually I would start, so it was kind of like, okay, so you drink from a bowl, and then you pass it to my companion, and then everyone drinks water. So then that's kind of how you drink. Also, another way that was kind of cool is they had water bags, and it's kind of like sealed off water. You buy it for 25 sifa, which is about 5 cents. Okay. And you kind of just bite off a corner, and you just kind of squeeze it and drink it, and then you kind of let it fall out of your hand, because that's just how everyone is. Just trash everywhere. There's no trash cans, no public trash cans, and you're not gonna walk around with that all day, so you just kind of throw it on the ground. That was pretty strange, when I first got out there, is how much trash there was everywhere. It's kind of how people would deal with trash. They just sweep it up in a pile. Usually in the morning, you just see usually the women, it's always the women, out there sweeping all the trash that accumulated during the night or during the previous day in front of their house, and they put it in a pile and they just burn it to walk away. And so you walk out in the morning, and there's lots of fires going on. I guess my favorite food to eat was called jinkime, and it's a red pat. And you don't really eat it with a sauce, you eat it with a fork, and because it's a little harder. But my favorite part about it was, usually it's accommodated with chicken. So I like chicken. So every time members would always ask, oh, what do you want to eat? It's jinkime, with fish or with chicken. Chicken. It's red pat. Kind of drawing a blank on how it becomes red. It's been a while. But I think a part of that's so good is that they would boil the chicken, so they have the chicken broth water, and then they'd use that water to make the pat. So it had a little bit more flavor to make it so you can just kind of eat it. Food's really spicy, really spicy. I I learned that it was kind of, they would always, you know, every time I got my food, they would hand it to me, and they would ask if you want pimol, which is, you know, pepper. So like, you know, it would just give you a little bit. And I learned that the more pepper you eat, like the more kind of respect you kind of get. So I'd be like, oh, that's it? Like, what? And then they're like, what? Like, you want more? Like, yeah, give me more. And then like, they'd give you a tiny scoop, and they're like, come on, give me a little bit more. And then it's like, oh, yo. And so like, they started giving you like a lot, and then, you know, after you get all, you got to eat it. So I've had a lot of times where, you know, it's mouth completely on fire, but everyone's staring at you, so you gotta have a calm reaction to it. I've had lots of times when they would have stands outside, you know, selling essentially the three things that everyone sells. Everyone sells it, so you wonder how anyone kind of makes money. Is the peppers, onions, and what they have is called gumbo. Also tomatoes, I guess it's 4. But you'd be standing out there like, talking to people, and maybe they're like not really into it or whatever, and then I kind of like reach over and I'm like, oh, is this a tomato? But it's a pepper. They're like, no, it's pepper, it's pepper. I'm like, oh, I think it's tomato. And then you just eat it. Just eat a pepper, and just, you gotta make sure that like, they see you chewing it. And then they're just like, yo, like, you're crazy. And then just eat it, and you're like, so like, when can we come by? And then they're like, it doesn't always work, but it has worked. So like, I like doing it. Weirdest thing that I personally didn't eat. I was actually in Togo at the time, and they had a big missionary kind of thing. I think it might have been like a farewell kind of thing for a missionary that was going home, but they actually got monkey. They got monkey, and they, you know, monkey brain. Weirdest thing that I ate was, I didn't really venture too much because I was, you know, I'm okay with eating food challenge as a dare or something, but then like when you're kind of out there, you're kind of like, well, I don't want to get sick because I have to go to the hospital. But weirdest thing I probably would eat would be like goat skin. You'd see like a huge mixing pot, and you know, they have, you know, the soup kind of thing going on, and they like when they're stirring it, you'd see like hooves floating around, so they just chop it up and just throw everything in there. And the goat skin like wasn't grilled or anything, it was boiled, right? So it was like really chewy, and there's no meat on it, it's just like the skin, so you're kind of like, what's the point of this? But for the most part, like, I like the food. I did. You know, the fish was kind of weird to get used to, but I did like the food. I guess technically you're not supposed to buy food on the side of the roads just because it's badly prepared, mal-prepared, and but you know what, like, it's hard to just cook every day. Sometimes you're like, I just want to buy some rice and beans, so you just, you know, buy some rice and beans. I think one of my favorite things to just buy off the street in Togo was the spaghetti. They'd make it like with tomato sauce, and they would put a lot of mayonnaise and a lot of mayonnaise and a lot of stuff. It'd be like mayonnaise and tomato, and it was like, you know, with pepper in it, so it's hot. And they would make an omelette and put the omelette on top. So I never had like spaghetti with mayonnaise with an omelette. It was really good. It's like my favorite thing to get. It was only like $1 for a plate, so eat pretty good.